Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another League of Legends video. In today's video, we're going to be covering over the champion, which is VEIGAR. So I'm pretty much going to go over VEIGAR and how he works and everything. We're going to go over his passive, his abilities. We're going to go maybe over a couple of builds or maybe just one, because he's most likely just played on the mid lane, and he's just one of those very scary and deadly champs that you guys never want to face, because he's just AP thirsty, and pretty much like his ability power never ends. You can keep building that crap with your stacks and stuff, which I'll get in detail with. That's what makes VEIGAR really scary, and that's what makes him so highly damaging. But there are also some drawbacks and some strengths on playing VEIGAR himself, but pretty much everyone remembers VEIGAR as the AP thirsty champion. So we're gonna start off with VEIGAR's passive, which is Phenomenal Evil Power. VEIGAR is the greatest evil to ever strike at the hearts of Runeterra, and he's only getting bigger. Striking an enemy champion on with a spell or scoring a takedown grants VEIGAR permanently increasing ability power. So as you can tell, I'm kind of bad at reading, so basically what this means is with your Q, well, this is going to be combined with how the Q works, so I'm going to quickly go in detail with the Q, and then I'm going to combine it with how the passive works and everything. So the Q ability for VEIGAR is Baleful Strike. This can cost 40 to 60 mana, and it has a range of 900. VEIGAR unleashes a bolt of dark energy that deals magic damage to the first two enemies hit. Units killed by this bolt grants VEIGAR some ability power permanently. Unleashes a bolt of dark energy, dealing 70 to 230 damage, plus the amount of ability power you have to the first two enemies hit. Killing a unit with this also grants VEIGAR a stack of Phenomenal Evil. Large minions and large monsters grants 2. So basically what the passive is, which is pretty much combined with how your Q works. Your Q is basically what makes you stack all the passives, and what your passive is basically killing a minion with your Q, much like Nasus, but you gotta make sure you kill the minion on its last health with the Q. Also, you can poke your enemy champions with the Q ability, so it also does stack once it hits. But if you do kill a super minion, or if you kill, I'm pretty sure, a cannon minion, and if you kill a big monster, they give you 2 stacks each for this ability. And the stacks pretty much work over all your abilities, because your passive scaled pretty much on every single ability, because it gives you permanently 1 ability power per stack, which means you can literally go on forever and ever and ever. So your ability power pretty much never stops, much like Nasus's stacks as well. So you can pretty much build up all the ability power you want, and make sure you go for maybe a magic penetration build, and most likely start going for the AP, but it's most likely recommended getting AP items as well along with your stacks, which makes VEIGAR pretty much really scary, and his Q will start to do a lot of damage once his stacks are really high. So your Q is basically your source of getting really strong. So next we're gonna go move over to VEIGAR's W, Dark Matter, which costs 60 to 80 and has a range of 900. VEIGAR calls a great mass of dark matter to fall from the sky to the target location, dealing magic damage when it lands. After 1.2 seconds, dark matter falls from the sky to the target location, dealing 100 to 300 damage, plus the ability power you currently have as magic damage. So as demonstrated in the bottom left, it pretty much shows you what it does. This ability can almost match up to your ulti, and it does scale with your ability power as well. Pretty much everything on VEIGAR is scaled with his ability power, and most likely everything that he has is pretty much skill shot. So moving over to his E ability, which is Event Horizon, costing 70 to 90 mana, which has a range of 725. After a brief delay, VEIGAR twists the edges of the space around the target location for 3 seconds, stunning enemies who pass through the perimeter. After a 0.5 second delay, VEIGAR twists the edges of the space around the target location for 3 seconds, forming a pentagon of walls. Enemies who attempt to pass through the perimeter are stopped and stunned for 1.5 to 2.5 seconds, so it's dependent on how much you level it up. Now this ability is actually very useful on the laning phase. You can most likely keep your enemies in place, and you can pretty much stun them if anyone else tries to go for you. And this is why a lot of people play VEIGAR in the support, because you can trap the enemy ADC and get him in a small space. Also, you can keep the jungler away in this way, but the only thing is, the only disadvantage of being a support VEIGAR is having to focus on your stacks, because your stacks are very crucial. And the only thing, or pretty much the most common thing that can counter this E ability is pretty much Sivir's shield, because she has a shield that can go through it, and she pretty much consumes mana as long as she's walking through it, along with spell shields as well from like Morgana or Malzahar. They can walk through it easily as long as they have a spell shield active, and they can pretty much not be affected. So there's a bit of counters in here, but make sure you defeat their spell shields or any other shields just so you can stun them for future purposes. So we're gonna move over to VEIGAR's last and final ultimate ability, which is Primordial Burst. This ability costs 100 mana and has a range of 650. This blasts a target enemy champion, dealing a large amount of magic damage, increasing based on the target's missing health. Blast the target with the primal magic to deal 175 to 325, which is pretty much the minimum, but you can even go much higher, which is 350 to 650, so that's pretty much the maximum, but it's all scaled off of your ability power as well, along along with your stacks and the items you build, and increased based on the target's missing health. Damage is maximized against enemies below 33% health. So basically, Primordial Burst is pretty much the only ability that is not skill shotted, but it's also one of the most powerful abilities that you will have on VEIGAR. So this is why you'll need your stacks up, because this ultimate ability is actually way more damaging than all the abilities you have. But pretty much your W can almost do the same amount of damage as long as you're leveling it up and keeping the ability power high. Your W can almost do the same amount of damage as your ultimate does. But your ultimate is pretty much a homing ability, which go around on your enemy and just kills them, because it's just one of those abilities that it's just really scary, and what makes him really scary. But pretty much nearly all of his abilities can be blocked by Yasuo's Wind Wall as well, except the stun, but the ultimate and the Q ability can definitely be deflected by Yasuo's Wind Wall. Although there may be other ways to counter it and stuff, these are the common things that I know that will counter it completely, because maybe there are Braum shields and stuff, but maybe that will completely counter it. The Yasuo shield definitely does, because Yasuo is broken like shit, and you know, that's just Yasuo for you guys. But we're just gonna move still on to VEIGAR. So now we're gonna cover over build information on VEIGAR. Now pretty much like every ability power champion, you would normally buy Doran's Ring for the ability power, because VEIGAR is an ability power pack guy, and you gotta make sure that you're stacking with VEIGAR as well. You gotta make sure you're landing your Qs to last hit the minions, to get the stacks, and to poke the enemy champions by pressing Q on them, and you'll get those stacks just like that. So moving over to the build, we can see this, and so far I'm only showing you guys one build, because it's one really common build, and you could pretty much kind of alter with this, but this is the build I kind of recommend to you guys. So Rod of Ages, of course, will pack a bunch of damage, and you know, it gives you a lot of that mana and stuff. And Morella Nomicon does give you that CDR. CDR is going to be kind of useful for when you're stacking as well. The Sorcerer's Boots are used for magic penetration, and along with the Void Staff, and you're most likely going to need that if your enemy is building magic resist, because they're most likely going to want to avoid VEIGAR. But if you keep stacking, you can bypass that freaking magic resist and you can get somewhere. But if your enemy does lack any magic resistance, then you can also go for Ionian Boots for the more cooldown reduction, so you can actually Q more minions, Q more champions, and you can stack more for more damage. And Rabdon's Death Cap is the crucial thing that you'll need. This is one of the main things, biggest core that you will always need with VEIGAR, because this is what makes VEIGAR so insane. And pretty much when you're stacking with VEIGAR, if you have over 100, or if you have pretty much 120 ability power, you're pretty much matching out a Rabdon's Death Cap. You get a free Rabdon's Death Cap just for stacking, and pretty much you're supposed to, at least till late game, probably like 30 minutes, you're supposed to have like 300 to 400 stacks, and I did practice a few with my stacks and stuff. And then of course you're gonna need Zhonya's Hourglass for the resistance. It's either for magic resist, but it's also for using it for the active, so you can actually protect yourself, because VEIGAR is very squishy. Though he can do a lot of damage, he's completely squishy, and that's one disadvantage about VEIGAR, but that's why you're gonna need all this as your items. But you can also alter with the ability power stuff you guys want. Like for example, you can kind of even alter between Lichbane, and you can go for any other things that are based upon ability power, and pretty much anything that will buff up VEIGAR and make him just indestructible, because his R ability is just super damaging once you got all your ability power up. And probably to late game, your stats, if you look at it, you'll probably get over 1,000 ability power, which is insane. So now we're gonna move over to the runes and masteries for VEIGAR. So going over the runes and masteries, we're gonna look at the runes first, which are quintessences of ability power. Make sure they're greater, guys. Make sure they're not any scamming runes. Mark of magic penetration, which you'll need 9 of them, and you'll need 9 seal of scaling health regeneration, 3 glyph of ability power, and 6 glyph of cooldown reduction. Now this build, runes and masteries, is not from me actually, but I do follow this build, which is pretty much on Mobifier, but I don't look at all of my builds on Mobifier. I normally go on probuilds.net. Then looking at the masteries, this is pretty much what the mastery side looks, but obviously I don't go too much in detail in it, but you guys can copy this and you guys can understand why I chose this. And we'll definitely gonna need to go Thunderlord's Decree, because this is gonna be good for poking your enemy. And pretty much just follow this mastery page right here. You're gonna need 12 on ferocity and 18 on cunning, because the cunning is definitely gonna be for VEIGAR, because he's an ability power champion and he's all scaled off of ability power. Now using abilities all at once is pretty much not even that hard. It's pretty much almost like a combo, but you can do it in many different ways. You can either do EQW, or you could do EWQ. You can do a bunch of things as long as you get them in your E ability. You can do all the damage you want, because all of these stuff, this is why I'm not going to demonstrate a combo, because you can pretty much do a lot of different things with a lot of VEIGAR's abilities. Like you can pretty much stun someone and damage them and quickly pop on an ulti, depending on how much damage you really need to kill that person. But it's all based upon your ability powers. You guys got to keep track of that and make sure that you get your ability power up when you're playing VEIGAR, because that's what makes him so beastie and so strong. So overall, VEIGAR is pretty much a really good mid laner. Also, he is very squishy, like I said, but he can pack a lot of ridiculous damage. To be honest, playing VEIGAR probably, in my opinion, is one of the best things for ranking up as well. You kind of got to be strategic on how you place yourself and stuff, because when you get ganked, sometimes it can be a problem, but you got to use your E ability most likely for stopping ganks and stuff, or stopping your enemy from actually trying to kill you. The only thing that can break out of this E ability is a flash, or pretty much like something that transport you out of it. Like I said, spell shields does block it, but if you go against someone like Zed or Ezreal and they do not touch the perimeter of the stun, they can actually go out of it. Like Zed can use his living shadows, and Ezreal can use his E ability to get out of there as well. And that's one thing you got to be very careful of. You got to make sure if you know your opponent can escape out of your E ability, so you can make sure you can confirm the kill or at least do some damage. Because if you lock them in your perimeter, you can get a Q, W, and an ultimate on top of someone, but most likely this will be very effective on tanks. But you're gonna want to go for the squishy people first before you start engaging yourself onto tanks, because tanks will definitely be penetrated. If as long as you're building magic penetration, you're doing a lot of good, and it's gonna keep VEIGAR ahead and pretty much gonna get a lot of the kills. And as long as you're stacking, because stacking is the huge crucial thing that you're gonna need, and then as long as you're stacking, you're pretty much gonna be far ahead in the game. And that's how VEIGAR is played insanely. So anyways guys, if you guys enjoyed this guide, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys want to see more guides like this, I will go in depth with more in the future, and pretty much every weekend I will be setting some more guides, just like I said. But this time we've done it today only because I did delay a little bit because I was busy setting up some cinematics for future videos. So I'll be setting some cinematics in future as well, and I will be setting more guides every single weekend, and I hope you guys enjoy all of that. Thank you guys for subscribing. The support is rising. We can get there, guys. We can go hit 100 within probably like 30 days. I'm thinking we can hit at least 100 subs within 30 days. So anyways guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment. Also, one more thing, if I did miss out anything on this guide, please let me know in the comment section below, like last video, because on the last guide you guys helped me a lot on the information that I have missed, and I really do thank you guys for actually supporting me with that. So make sure you keep that up, and thank you guys so much. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Peace guys, and see ya.